Shaking 76-year-old woman asked Hell's Angel, "Can you button my coat?" Then this happened. The rain fell in cold, relentless sheets against the cracked pavement of Oakhaven, mirroring the chill that had settled deep within the bones of 76-year-old Eleanor Vance. For 3 weeks, a sinister black sedan had been idling outside Sal's diner, her only sanctuary since her husband, Detective Frank Vance, passed away. The men inside wore suits that cost more than her house, but their eyes held a darkness that money couldn't buy. They were waiting for her. They knew she had something they wanted. Eleanor's hands trembled violently as she stepped out of her car. It wasn't just the age or the cold, it was pure, unadulterated terror. Across the parking lot, sitting astride a gleaming chrome Harley-Davidson, sat a man who looked like a mountain carved from leather and steel. His name was Bear, the president of the local Hells Angels chapter. To most, he was a figure of intimidation, a symbol of chaos. To Eleanor, in that moment of desperation, he was the only thing that looked solid enough to lean on. Summoning a courage she didn't know she possessed, Eleanor walked toward the giant miker, her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. When she reached him, she didn't speak of danger or crime. Instead, with a voice barely above a whisper, she asked, "Sir, could you please button my coat? My hands, they won't stop shaking." Bear looked down. Beneath the oversized wool coat, he saw the violent tremors of her frail hands. He saw the fear etched into the lines of her face, a fear that spoke of life or death stakes. In that split second, the hardened exterior of the biker cracked. He remembered his own mother, gone now for 10 years, and the helplessness he felt when he couldn't be there to protect her from the world's cruelties. Without a word, Bear dismounted. His massive, tattooed fingers, usually associated with wrenches and handlebars, gently manipulated the small buttons of Eleanor's coat. As he secured the final one, he leaned in, his voice a low rumble. "You aren't shaken because of the cold, are you, ma'am?" Eleanor nodded, tears finally spilling over. She whispered the truth. Her late husband, Frank, had died under suspicious circumstances after uncovering a massive corruption ring run by Marcus Thorne, a ruthless real estate developer. Frank had hidden a ledger, proof of bribes, arson, and murder, but before he could turn it over, he was silenced. Now Thorne's henchmen were hunting Eleanor, demanding the book. "They cornered me in the garage yesterday," she confessed, her voice breaking. "They said if I don't give them the ledger by tonight, I won't see tomorrow." Bear's jaw tightened. The air around them seemed to shift. He signaled to his brothers, a dozen other bikers who had been cleaning their bikes nearby. Instantly, the atmosphere changed. What was once a lonely parking lot became a fortress. Bear placed a protective arm around Eleanor's shoulders. "Let's get you some coffee, Eleanor, and let's see who comes knocking." They formed an impenetrable wall of leather and steel, guiding the tiny elderly woman into the diner. The contrast was striking, the fragile widow surrounded by the roughest men in the city, yet she had never felt safer. They took a booth in the back. As the coffee steamed between them, Eleanor revealed her final secret. "The ledger isn't at home. It's here, under this booth." As if on cue, the diner door chimed. A man in a sharp suit entered, scanning the room until his eyes locked onto Eleanor. He moved with purpose, heading straight for their table. But he never made it. Before he could take 2 steps, Bear stood up. The sheer size of the biker blocked the light, casting a long shadow over the henchman. Behind Bear, 11 other members rose in unification, crossing their arms. The silence in the diner was deafening. "You're lost, pal," Bear said, his voice calm but laced with a threat that promised violence if provoked. "This lady is under our protection. You turn around, you walk out, and you tell Thorne that the Vance family has new guardians." The henchman, realizing he was vastly outnumbered and outmatched, paled. He tried to bluff, reaching for his jacket, but the collective growl of the bikers stopped him cold. Defeated, he turned and fled. Outside, the sound of hissing air filled the parking lot. Bear's men had already punctured the tires of the black sedan, leaving the predators stranded and powerless. That night, the Hells Angels didn't just escort Eleanor home, they fortified it. They stayed until dawn, ensuring no shadow dared approach her door. The next day, the ledger was handed not to the compromised local police, but to an investigative journalist known for integrity. The fallout was swift and seismic. Within a week, Marcus Thorne was arrested, his empire crumbling under the weight of Frank Vance's evidence. The corrupt developers, the bribed officials, and the hired thugs were all brought to justice. But the true victory wasn't in the headlines. It was in the quiet moments that followed. Eleanor, once isolated by grief and fear, found herself surrounded by an unconventional family. Every Sunday, Bear and his crew would stop by for pie. They fixed her fence, mowed her lawn, and listened to her stories about Frank. They proved that kindness doesn't always wear a uniform or a suit. Sometimes it wears leather and rides a motorcycle. Eleanor finally found peace, knowing that courage can come from the most unexpected places. She learned that even in the darkest times, there are those willing to stand as a shield for the vulnerable. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that kindness and second chances exist everywhere, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us spread hope to millions of people who need to hear that they are not alone. Don't forget to tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Let's see how far this message of hope can travel. Thanks for watching.